Inside Blitz Week 6 with Ted and Ron, and I tweeted out that we don't waste people's time. So one of you guys start talking about something important immediately.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure. I don't think there's anything important to talk about immediately.
Well, then we're wiping you out.
All right. Well, it was nice seeing. That was.
Oh no!
You talk about giving the controls to the wrong guy.
Yeah, take the keys away.
Well, the most important thing is the Sports USA doubleheader, as far as I'm concerned. Excuse me, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and New England at Las Vegas. Interesting storylines for both teams, and we're going to get both games, I should say. We're going to get to all of that, of course, in a minute. But one of the things I like about this week's card overall is there are some good matchups in just a week 6 where they're not necessarily great teams, but they're very important games at this stage of the year. And, you don't always get that. So I like that combo there.
Yeah, for me, the excitement of week 5 and the start of the second quartile, it's always such an incredible week in terms of volume, in terms of focus. 4 weeks have been in. We know we can turn over to 2023 stats. Week 6 is troublesome in some respects. So, yeah, I'm trying to get in the minds. Well, what do coaches feel about now? They're in the second game of the quartile. They placed all this effort on week 5, and some of them succeeded and some of them failed. And so it's going to be interesting because our second game, New England, Vegas, is going to be talking about two teams that in week 5, it was kind of a different direction for one, and the other one hopes to save its season. And then you have the first game that we have, Indy Jacksonville, a divisional game, a repeat of week 1 divisional matchup, our first repeat. So you're right, Ted. Pretty fascinating storylines for a week 6.
And I want to thank Ron for many, many reasons, but he has improved my vocabulary because until a few years ago, over the many decades I've been on this planet, I never used the word quartile. So I appreciate you putting that into my head.
It's just such an excellent word to add to the vocabulary. Agreed.
It makes you sound so smart, even if you don't have no idea what it means.
So we have this matchup of the two first place teams. The Colts had the in-season revenge, and Ted, you have at least one interview on this game, right?
Yeah, no, I got Josh Downs, the receiver, second leading receiver, and off his probably his best game of his career. And I wanted to get a thought from Ron on what he rated Josh Downs coming out of college.
Oh yeah, thanks for giving me advance notice there. I gave Josh Downs an appropriate grade, a second round grade. I really liked him in terms of what he brings to the table as far as readiness for the NFL. Kind of smooth, ran some different routes and so on. There are some limitations that took him out of the first round for me, but definitely a good wide receiver 2 and maybe bottom of the line wide receiver 1, which is not bad company, because if you're bottom of the line wide receiver 1, you're kind of in the top 30 in all of the NFL. That would be a ceiling for me, but definitely started his career very well.
And how about the fit for him with Indy? Because they needed receivers, and I mean, it's a great opportunity to play right away.
Yeah, and of course, he's going to get used to 2 different quarterbacks and 2 different styles. I mean, when we get into this, Minshew is completely different quarterback for me than an Anthony Richardson, who's still learning his trait.
Right.
For me, Downs' value with Richardson right now is broken plays. He can get open, he can stretch the field, he can take it to the house. His value in the long term has to be more than that. So Richardson would have to settle down and he can be a complete wide receiver and then run the routes and the patterns that he was used to in college. But it's an interesting dynamic. It's certainly worth discussing.
Yeah, and Indy's trying to equal last year's win total already. When you think about it, right? They had 4 wins last year, and here they can take over sole possession of first place. That's a pretty good spot to be in, a couple of 3-2 teams. Let's hear from Josh Downs, Chris.
Okay.
Hey, Josh.
Hello.
Ted in Los Angeles. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on. First of all, I want to know, is there a little story behind you getting that number 1 on your jersey?
Not too much of a story. I'd say I used to wear number 11, but I couldn't wear number 11 because of Michael Pittman. So number 1 was available. I wanted to keep one of the ones. So
Okay.
one's probably my second option as a number to wear. So when I heard it was available, I took it when it was offered to me.
Well, it's great to be number 1 in the program and number 1 in everyone's hearts too, right?
For sure, definitely.
All right, so how great was Zach Moss and your big division win over Tennessee?
Oh, he was excellent. Zach's a phenomenal player. He surprises me every time he goes out there because he didn't do camp because he had an injury. So when I first saw him play that first game, I knew he was a dog. And seeing what he did this weekend was just more of him showing what he can do.
So how great was that guy named Josh Downs in that same game? 6 targets, 6 catches, 97 yards, and a bunch of key catches.
Man, it was just blessed to be out there, blessed to be able to make a few plays for my team. Really was exciting to get the division win. So, yeah, just got to keep building off that and see where we go from here.
Yeah, how tough is it to lose Richardson right now? Looked like he was really starting to get together.
Yeah, it's tough losing him. He's a great guy, an excellent player. So just knowing that a guy like that is going through that right now, it's kind of tough. But yeah, I mean, I hope he's going to be okay. But Gardner came in, played well, and we're excited what he can do as well.
All right, so what about Gardner? How does that change your offense, and what kind of chemistry have you built with him?
I mean, it really doesn't change much. We pick up where we left off. We feel like he's a great player as well. He can do a lot of things. So, really, we're just going to ride with 10 right now. Gardner's an excellent player, so he makes my job easier.
Have you spent a lot of time with him throughout training camp, though, as well, so it's not a big transition for you?
Yes. I worked with the ones and the twos during camp, so I had a lot of work with Gardner.
Good.
And then he played the whole Ravens game too, so I had that as well.
Excellent. We're with the Colts rookie standout receiver Josh Downs, and hey, even though he wasn't a factor last week, what does it mean to get Jonathan Taylor back on the field?
Oh, he's a great player. We're really excited to have JT back on the field. Arguably the best back in the league when he's fully healthy. So we're excited about his return for real, and excited to see his rep count keep going up.
Exactly. That combination, though, of him and Moss, that could open up a lot of things, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. It'll be exciting to see what they do.
All right, it's only week 6, but it's a battle for first place in this one. Tight division with Jacksonville. What's your group working on to face the Jags D?
Just continue to do what we do. Go in every week, practice, work hard, take care of what you can control, and then just go from there. So I feel like everybody has their own responsibilities on the offense, and you gotta take care of the opportunity when your number's called.
And what's going to take to break that 8-game losing streak at Jacksonville? That's gone on way too long.
This is good.
Yeah, I would just say take. I didn't even know that, but yeah, we gotta go out there. We gotta play like every game is the same. Like I said, everybody's gotta take care of the opportunity when their number's called. They gotta put in the work during the week, and then the rest will take care of itself.
And maybe just get in the middle of the room and point to yourself, say, "Hi, I haven't been here for the last 8 games. Don't look at me, guys."
Yeah, that's funny.
Hey, Josh, I really appreciate you coming on. Sound like a great guy, and all the best. Stay healthy, all right, man?
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, well, I love
Well
I got
done.
him. I caught him off guard on that one. He's a rookie. He doesn't know anything about the 8-game losing streak at
Yeah,
Jacksonville.
but that's good because
Exactly.
if they're not talking about it and it's not hanging over their head, that's a good thing.
No, absolutely. It's not. I don't even think it's an issue at all. And you know what? They're such a young team. Most of those guys have never been a part of that. So many of them haven't. So not an issue. I think the issue is more jet lag for Jacksonville than it is for Indy worried about that streak.
Well, let's go right to your Pederson comment on the jet lag.
Yeah, Doug Pederson talked about jet lag and how it affects the Jags.
It's obviously a concern, coming back from a 10-day trip, and the jet lag is real and all of that, for a couple of days. But, just spend more time, walkthroughs, kind of slow the pace down a little bit, try to get their bodies and minds kind of rejuvenated again. Obviously the onus is on the player for understanding the game plan and getting the game plan down. But I can do my part by helping them and maybe getting them, out of the building a little bit sooner, where they can not so much get them out of the building, but get them off the field where they can continue their rehab and treatments. And hydration is important, nutrition is important, and then making sure that they get rest at night. That's obviously a concern, coming back from a 10-day trip, and the jet lag is real and all of that.
So what he's saying there is it affects the clock for everybody there. He went on to talk about other stuff, but he mentioned that, like, from the coach's standpoint, they were all trying to say, let's give these guys a break for the first few days specifically and let them, just smooth out the week a little bit, because it's going to be effective. Now, whether it's by game time, that's a whole different story, but it does affect what they do all week, and you never know if that's going to affect the game.
Yeah, so I have a question for you, Cris. Actually, I have a couple questions, but the first one would be, I know in terms of your model, you're not going to take in some of these soft things like travel and so on. And I haven't taken this into account, but I just wonder for both of you verbally, the fact that they stayed in London for 2 weeks and decided not to have the bye week coming back. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I was surprised to see Russell contribute that. I didn't even realize that they had the short week ahead of them. Why? Kind of odd that they wouldn't take the bye week. It was their choice not to take the bye week. So a strange decision there. So
by the way, he was asked about it, Pederson, and he said he didn't get into it. It was just like, no, we didn't even think about it. It didn't affect us. So, okay.
I know lots of coaches would rather have buys anywhere from week 8 to 11 kind of thing to really split up the season, especially with 17 games now. But we're going to see how they handle that. That Thursday is going to be a tough assignment for them, because they're going to have to re-energize after that game. And it's not very easy to play a Saints team with that kind of defense, where they're a physical defense and they force you to do everything you can just to complete passes against that Saint defense, one of the best in terms of limiting completions.
Do you have a wager on this game, Sir Ron?
The thing I'm looking at in this particular game, which kind of goes contrary to some people who think that second matchups, people know everything about the other team, so they're going to tighten up on defense and so on. My metrics do not show tightening defenses for either team. So I'm taking the over-under has changed. It's moved down to roughly about 44-ish. I think it opened around 45.5. I think 44 is a number that would definitely tempt me for the overs in this particular game. I think Jacksonville did find its rhythm. If there's any fatigue on their part, it might show up defensively. And also, I expect both of these quarterbacks to throw a high number of completions. That might be a prop hint if you're talking about Gardner Minshew and his 19.5 and now up to 20.5 completion figure. So the big question for me, Cris, is when they get inside the 20, do they settle for field goals? I'm talking about both teams. Do they settle for field goals, or do they actually convert and score and get the touchdowns? And actually, now another question comes to mind, Cris. Do you have data on does your model take into account red zone performance, offense and defense?
Sure. Yeah, it's part of my model. You have to have that in there. I don't have it extracted at the moment, but it's definitely in there. So do you think that there's a difference or an advantage, or has Minshew been around too long? They faced Richardson in game 1. Now they face a different quarterback, whereas Indianapolis faces the team they just faced.
Yeah, for me, I think if they're going to game plan based on week 1, they're going to make a mistake. They're going to have to go back to Minshew tape and not spend as much time on the week 1 tape for a variety of reasons, because you and I talked about what does week 1 matter? Maybe, some people talked about throwing out week 1 altogether because your players aren't up to speed. So I just look at Minshew tape only.
Yeah. And it is Minshew mania all over again in Jacksonville. Remember, that's where it started.
Oh, that's right.
He's going back there, and he's got to be excited about that. I mean, this is a great opportunity for him to really stick it to him. So we'll see if he's capable of it.
So Ron likes the over a little bit if he gets a 44. My model doesn't warrant a play, but boy, I'll tell you, I feel like I have FOMO, fear of missing out, betting Indianapolis. There's just so many reasons to take Indianapolis in this game. So we'll just have to see. So just a strong lean for me on that one.
What about Jonathan Taylor? How you think he fits into this thing? Are they going to give him? Is his over under like 10 carries this week now instead of 6?
Yeah, I think he's going to go over. We talked about this in the past that, the first game back, they want to ease players in.
Exactly.
And I think, after a game under his belt and a full week's practice, you're going to see a lot more usage of Taylor. So
yeah, you would think.
Another advantage.
And of course, we just mentioned the great game that Zach Moss is coming off of. There's no rush in getting him in there, getting every touch possible. They can mix it up as much as they want.
So we're on to the unbelievable game, the New England Patriots and the Las Vegas Raiders, and I don't even know where to start on this one. You're the professional, the long-term, 30 years in the industry, Ted. How do you hype this game
30,
up?
Make it 50, but who's counting?
Oh, all right.
30. I don't remember 30. Look, the Patriots just have been a joke the last 2 weeks. I had 3 points in 2 games, outscored, I think it's 72-3, I believe.
Correct.
It is.
Yep.
So they need to do a little bit better this week, offensively, specifically. And, hey, look, and their defense is not bad. They're just, if their offense can't move the ball, their defense is screwed. So they're on the field way too long, and it's just a bad combo there. But look, there's something about this game. I got a feeling the Patriots are going to make it close. And one of the reasons is because the Raiders aren't that good. All right. And even though the Raiders won the game, it was a standalone game against the Packers. They didn't look good to me at all. The Packers look worse, but Vegas just looked bad. So I just think the Patriots are going to make this a game. We all remember last year's wacko December game with the stupid lateral at the end of the game that cost the Patriots in Vegas. And now they're going back. It doesn't happen too often. The team goes back-to-back years on the road to the same city, and they're not in the same division. So that's sort of a weird scheduling, but whatever.
They have the guy who was involved in that play, Jacoby Myers, was a Patriot last year, and now
and he's my guest.
He's a Raider. So it's very confusing to me. I don't know what you guys even think about that, or does it matter?
No, I don't think it matters at all. But Jacoby is going to be calling me 30 minutes after we're done. So I was supposed to get him an interview with him yesterday. Unfortunately, not able to do so. But he's going to be calling in. And that's one of the first questions I'm going to ask him. Okay, that play. He's the one who tossed the ball back to Mac Jones. And it was like all of a sudden it was going the other way. That was one of the weirdest plays I've ever seen.
That cost me big.
Oh, it did. Oh, no wonder you're shaking your head like a bobblehead.
The Patriots had a few games last season that just cost me. There was a Jets game, the return, and
okay. So the Patriots haven't scored a TD in 10 quarters. I mean, come on, you got to be better than that. Ron, what are your thoughts on their offense and what they're not doing? Okay, because they have decent running backs, they have decent receivers. They don't have a great playmaker on offense, but they should have enough to be able to move the ball.
I'm a little worried that Bill Belichick has been going too much old school. I mean, you just look to his neighbor to the south, Miami, in the same division, and how they put such an emphasis on speed. And you're stuck with Ezekiel Elliott and Stevenson at running back. They drafted 4 others. Some of them show promise. They're all off the team right now. I think they just wanted to establish the run to set up the pass. And I don't think you could do that in today's NFL.
Well, the Lions do that.
Establish the run to
That's part of their strategy is they establish the run, so they set up the pass.
Okay, but there's two important differences. At least two important differences. Number one,
it's 11.
Detroit has a cohesive, better offensive line than New England. And I was going to mention New England was down 2 offensive linemen right at kickoff week 1, and they haven't recovered from that. And 2, Detroit has a more complete, shifty running back. And that's the very thing I was mentioning. Stevenson and Elliott are liabilities. When you pass to them, they catch it, but they're going to get 3 or 4 yards. Gibbs, Barkley, some of the other running backs in the NFL, McCaffrey for sure. When you throw the ball to them, you get worried.
Yeah.
You applaud when you throw the ball to Ezekiel Elliott because he's going to go 4 yards at most. So style-wise, it's a big difference. And I think they have to break out of that rut. And if you're sitting at 1-4, why aren't you trying things differently? Because you have nothing else to do right now.
Okay, and there's a little interesting interview this morning with Belichick talking about they're getting close to using Malik Cunningham.
Yep.
Now, what do you know about him, Ron? He could turn out to be the next Taysom Hill, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, he has a wealth of experience in college as a running quarterback at Louisville. One of the things I actually got wrong with the colleges is that Louisville would miss Malik Cunningham. They actually don't miss him at all right now. So Cunningham he's basically a quarterback who could run 6 to 7 yards per carry on design runs. They may want to incorporate that into the offense. I know they tried that over a decade ago with one of their running backs, and then they gave that up. Miami tried that as well. Malik is a college. You've heard me mention this, Ted, so much. He's a college quarterback. You know that, and by definition, that means he's not built for the NFL.
But he's not in college anymore. That's the problem.
Malik Cunningham has college quarterback skill sets that he would have to be schemed, much like Taysom Hill in the NFL.
And playing in the preseason is like playing in college, right? So I guess he had a pretty good preseason. They liked what they saw from him. And they've been using him as a receiver in practice. And maybe some, I didn't see any New England preseason games. If I do, you got to put me out of my misery, please. But is he capable of doing a little bit of a Taysom Hill kind of a, combo deal there?
I think it depends on what defense he's facing. If you're facing the Bears defense, if you're facing defense in transition, you're going to run misdirection and you're going to win with misdirection. In this game against the Raiders, you can win with misdirection. There could be 2 or 3 design plays for him.
Yeah, that's assuming he's going to play in this game. They're just talking about he is close to playing. Now, whether that means this Sunday or because whatever Mac Jones is doing ain't working, so maybe they're going to just bring him in and say, hey, he's coming into – we'll see if he can help at all.
You have an interview?
Yep. New England tight end Mike Gesicki, the former Miami Dolphin. It's an interesting transition for him. Played 5 years with Miami. And now he stays in the division and goes to the Patriots. I still wonder why and I mentioned in the interview, why they didn't use him more, specifically last year when McDaniel joined this team as a pass catcher, because he's the all-time leading Penn State tight end receiver, and he's a great red zone guy. But he doesn't work there anymore. So I don't know.
Here we go.
Let's hear from him. Ted Sobel in L.A. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for coming on. We had you a few times when you're with the Finns, so always appreciate your time.
Okay, for sure.
First, please describe the frustration of your team's offense lately. 3 points in the last 2 games, that's got to be driving you guys nuts.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, not, up to, our standard and, what we work for every single day, but definitely something that we're trying to improve. And, we're going to have another challenge this week, and we're excited about it.
Any thoughts specifically that you can pass along, though? What needs to be worked on more than most?
Nothing. I mean, like none of the big stuff, it's just, focusing on the fundamentals, some of the little things that ultimately become big things. But, I think, we got a ton of talent on the offensive side of the ball, great coaches. And, we're just working hard every single day to just get it going and get back on track.
10 turnovers as well in the first 5 games. That's the most in many years. So what's going on with that? How does a coaching staff approach that to say, hey, we need to limit this stuff?
Yeah, man, it takes everybody. It takes offensive line, quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, receivers, everybody, whoever has the ball in their hand at that time. Everybody plays a role into, ball security. And we know that we need to, be better at it. And we're definitely focusing on it. And I think, ultimately it's going to, help us, this upcoming week and, for the rest of the season, fighting through this adversity that we kind of faced these first couple weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting. You go in division to your first team after leaving Miami, and now you go with the legend, Coach Belichick. What's that been like?
Oh, it's been awesome. Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's had, so much success in this league and has been able to, put people in position to be successful and, have successful teams, year in and year out, honestly. So it's been great. It's been an awesome experience and something I'm excited to continue.
We're with Pat's tight end, Mike Gesicki, and hey, so many expats on that Raiders team right now. Is there much chatter about that in the room, facing a bunch of old guys, even though you weren't there before?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I wasn't really here, so not a ton, honestly. We know that this is going to be a big challenge for us. This week, they played great on Monday Night Football, and they had a big win, and so they got a lot of momentum right now, and it's going to be a great challenge for us this upcoming Sunday. And
Mac Jones, he needs to have a little bit more protection, whatever he's doing out there. How much can you guys rally around that?
I think everybody can help. I don't think it's just one position group or one player or anything like that. So I think we all need to be better, and I think we can all kind of rally around this offensive group, and we can all get going. Everybody's confident, everybody's excited, everybody's, bouncing around at practice, and, everybody's, nobody's hanging their head. It's still October, and, we got a lot of football ahead of us, and we're excited about this upcoming opportunity.
So what stands out on film getting ready to face the Raiders defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, first and foremost, they play physical, they're smart, and, they definitely are talented in terms of, rushing the passer. I know that, Crosby is, an unbelievable, player,
yeah.
and, definitely a guy that has, made his impact in a lot of games this year. So, there's, talent all across the board and all, 3 levels, and we got to be ready to, accept that challenge.
Last thing, I'm always wondering, you're the all-time tight end receiver in Penn State history. And by the way, congrats on that. I loved watching you play there. That was great. Why were you not involved more when McDaniels took over in Miami on the offense? I would think I would throw to you like several times more a game.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's just, all, part of different schemes and, different staffs and all that kind of stuff. And, people run things differently, and that's just kind of how the chips fell there.
Yeah.
Was ultimately, grateful for, all my opportunities and all the time that I spent there.
All right. Well, if I ever draft you for my own team, I'm throwing to you, okay?
I appreciate that.
Hey, and I appreciate your time, guy. All the best. Stay healthy, and we'll talk to you down the road. All right. So Mike Gesicki, I think the one thing I took out of that is, and I believe him, that they're not hanging their heads. And I don't know if that coaching staff would allow them to hang their heads, because I think they'd cut their heads off if that was the case. I think the biggest disappointment this year in the entire league is Bill O'Brien's effect on your team. That is not good. And that was what everybody said. It's going to change everything. And it's changed nothing.
It's the Matt Patricia effect. He's a cancer that you have to go through
a few years. It's what do you think about that, Ron?
Well, the interesting thing about this game is that we talk about New England's uncharted territory with turnovers, -8. The Raiders are also -7. So at least, we're in the ballpark there. But the glaring thing that I noticed with the turnovers is we're not used to a New England secondary that has intercepted one pass in the first 5 games. So the takeaways aren't coming defensively. And that, again, speaks to McCourty not being there and people in new roles. They're playing relatively assignment sound in that they're allowing completions in front of them. and they're not getting burned at all, but they're not playing aggressive defense, in my opinion, in the back end. And with Matthew Judon, we know he's already out for the year. He missed last week. They're going to lose some of their ability to rush the quarterback. In fact, in this game, I don't expect a lot of defensive sacks. So I think the quarterbacks are going to have leeway and flexibility to move the chains and move the ball down the field. Now, back to the two of you, in terms of Bill O'Brien, does he actually change the game plan? And can we get away from Stevenson running 15 times and Elliott running 10 times and throwing these 3-yard passes to them? If you change the game plan now against this team, good things could happen. If you don't change the game plan, we're going to have another game that's going to get low ratings on TV.
And it's interesting you mentioned about the sacks. I think Max Crosby is probably right now, he needs a towel because of all the salivating he's been going through, thinking about nailing Mac Jones in this game. So I don't know about that, but to me, open it up now. Open it up. What do you have to lose? You haven't scored a damn touchdown in 3 weeks. Open it up, see because you know what? This is Mac Jones, his last chance to really show he belongs. Because if this keeps going, he's done.
Maybe he wants to show he doesn't belong so he can get out of it.
Maybe no. Look, if you can't do it for this team, because this is an opportunity for him and he knows it. Look, the reason he's there is because of Belichick's friendship with Alabama's God. Okay, they talk to each other 20 times a day. I'm exaggerating. It's only 18. But whatever, you know what I mean? That's the reason that the big recommendation, take this guy. He's going to be good for you. Well, this is your last chance, buddy.
So Chris, question for you. The week 6 dilemma again, I talked about how that, first game of the second quartile and so on. The Raiders feel better because they have a win under their belt, even though both coaches tried to lose that game desperately last Monday night in the Green Bay game. New England is 1-4, and like you said, and like others have said, we're starting over, the whole monotone thing or whatever. How do you read New England's body language right now? What are your expectations? What are you looking to do with this game?
I think they get a little bit of relief. Their schedule has been so difficult, and facing the Raiders off a short week just seems like they should be able to get some stuff done. And as you mentioned, open up this offense a little bit. I think both teams. It just seems like this is a game that's earmarked for loose and easy, and the total seems kind of low to me. It seems like really low, but I'm not a monster totals guy. But it just seems like the offenses are going to get rolling here just because they're going to be opening up with each other. What do you think? I mean,
Well, last week on the show, we talked about 2 unders and they went 2 for 2. And now all of a sudden I'm talking about 2 overs. There are people out there that have this stat. I'm not the only one that has this stat, but people with what New England has done offensively in the last 2 weeks, which is nothing that they've done offensively, tend to go, and we're talking sample size over 250, tend to go over the total the next week.
Right.
Also, they tend to be good against the spread. Again, I think because it's week 6, you take that with a little bit of grain of salt. I really don't have an opinion on the game as such, but I do have an opinion on the total. I think 41 is a playable number in this game. In fact, I think we've got some real New England problems if they can't contribute to the offensive scoring in this game against a vulnerable Raider defense. I mean, what's New England trying to prove if they want to win another 13-10 game?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think they have to try something different. I mean, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but geez, when you see this negative reinforcement game after game after game, how stubborn can he be? He has to do something. So that's the way I see it. The model lean New England, and I just spit out my drink when I saw the line leaning toward 3.5 Tuesday morning. I'm like, who the hell would lay, the Raiders -3 after what they've seen the last 2 weeks out of that coaching staff? So,
Exactly.
So I lean New England. I lean the over. Ron leans the over, and that's what we got.
It doesn't mean much anymore because it's sort of old news now, but it's still Belichick against his old guy, right? That McDaniels was there.
That's true.
And he tends to dominate that. Of course, that's hard to say he dominates anything with this team. So that's sort of up in the air in that department. But you talk about somebody who should be outcoached in this game. Good luck, Vegas.
Last comment I would have on this game is we've seen Jones benched each of the last 2 weeks. If you really want to move forward this season, you give him a shot of confidence. You throw in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter. Winning the game 13-10 wouldn't be a vote of confidence to me. If you want to salvage the season, you got to put confidence in his head.
Right. Open it up, baby.
You wanted to talk about teams off the bye. What do you have to say there?
This is something we briefly discussed on Tuesday, but there could be buys that are good for teams and buys that are bad for teams. And I have two in each category. To me, Seattle had such momentum and Tampa had such momentum that you wonder how they're going to recharge. I mean, they were moving forward. It's not like Tampa doesn't have good metrics. Tampa has some really good things. They're showing some defense. They have a lot of experience. Baker Mayfield fits the team. But when you press pause in how you're doing, I think that's a problem. Conversely, I think Cleveland had a bye that they needed, and apparently Deshaun Watson's not even going to play, so it's going to be an extended bye for him. And the Chargers, with the walking wounded, they certainly benefited from the bye. So I don't think models necessarily take into account bye weeks, but the human mind should take something into account there. What are your thoughts on what I just said regarding buys?
I think it comes into play with Seattle because they were doing well. I think I have mixed results on the Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay is coming back this week healthy. So it's disruptive in one way, but they're coming back with probably their healthiest unit of the year. So that's in that way, that's okay. But trying to think, there was one team. Wasn't there? Who else has been on a bye? There was one team that went on a bye this year that was bad.
This is the first week for.
Was that the first?
Yeah,
no, it's the second week.
What about
there was 2 weeks ago? They had a bye too.
Who was on bye the previous week?
There were 4 teams on a bye 2 weeks ago. I don't have.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
All I know is that to me, the standout that should really be thrilled with this bye, and I know they were, are the Chargers, and they get the extra day for a Monday night game against the Cowboys. So, I mean, they really needed this one big time. And Austin Eckler is back, so that's a really big plus for them as well, of course.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking of, is that San Diego or the Chargers is a perfect timing.
Good old San Diego. I love that. Bring on the Bolts.
I know.
Yeah, but I don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. It's one of those things where they talked about this is a pain tolerance thing. He's been given the clearance to play, but he's not playing. And, you can't get into the guy's head and heart and say, how much do you hurt? Why can't you play? But that is not good. Specifically, a guy, and you hate to bring in money, but hey, buddy, you're making, more than some leagues are worth. And it's crazy. You got to play if you're capable of playing.
He needs a good massage.
I knew you were going to.
Yeah. That was a setup line. Back to football.
Yeah, we'll be doing Vegas stand up soon there, Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Anything else on the bye subject?
No, that's about it. I just think it'll be interesting to watch these 4 teams, or at least these 3. Cleveland will put aside for that matter, and see actually what happens with these 3 teams.
See, Hector put up the stat, off a bye, teams are 4-2 straight up and against the spread. So, and you know what? I expect it to be pretty much the same this week. Although not Cleveland. That's going to be one of the losses. How about those Niners, by the way? 15 straight regular season win. I think it's 10 in a row now for Purdy. I mean, this is just – they've scored more than 30 points in every single game. And who's going to beat them?
Well, it'll be an interesting test for their offense this week because Cleveland's going to play good defense. But we may see points by San Francisco's defense with whatever, PJ Walker. Is that the quarterback that's going in?
I can't remember now.
Yeah, I mean, that's an issue. He's thrown a lot of interceptions.
And how about Sunday night's game? No Danny Dimes this time. Tyrod Taylor is back against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, no problem with that. For this particular game, Tyrod he's sack prone, but he has a better internal clock as compared to Daniel Jones. Something we should say to you, Ted, that Chris and I discussed the other day.
Okay.
Last year, both Chris and I defended Daniel Jones's new contract, saying that he deserved to be, in there. And you were the other way. You said he doesn't deserve. I think we're in your camp now.
Okay, well, come on over. By the way, the second disappointment, and actually it's 1A and 1B from a coaching standpoint, and we praised him all last year, and that's Brian Daboll, who he's getting this team to play way over their heads. And this year it is the total opposite. You can't blame it all on the coach, of course, but if he's going to get all the praise, he's got to get some of the blame too. And they are they're just all over the place. You can't even watch this team play.
Missed that one.
What are your thoughts on Daboll?
I think they just have to get better players.
Well, yeah, that helps. But they didn't have great players last year, and they did much better.
But every time they face a quarterback with a pulse, the pass defense allowed nearly 70% completions. And now we're seeing it with the upgraded schedule. It's a player personnel issue defensively. And then you ask the offense to do more than they're capable of doing. And with that offensive line, they're not capable of doing anything.
Thanks, Bertie, for the thoughts. I appreciate that.
I'm just sick and tired of the same teams being in the same situation. It's frustrating as a bettor, and it's got to be frustrating as fans. The Jets are always a mess. The Giants are always a mess. And at least San Francisco's holdings, they're healthy this year. There's no stopping them this year if they stay healthy.
Yeah. Wow,
but I don't know how can you put together a team with the Giants when there's new people sick? It's like a revolving door of injuries.
Yeah. Let's talk about coaches since you talked about Daboll. I put out a poll, and on the poll, I listed the 3 front runners. There were 3 main front runners for Coach of the Year if you go to betting sites. And it was Shanahan and McDaniel and the Lions coach Campbell. And so the poll results that I had showed, what did we show? We showed that Shanahan was number 1 or McDaniel was number 1. Now I got to find the poll results.
I don't know.
But Campbell closed to finish tied for second. It was a McDaniel that's number 1. So at this point, what are you guys' thoughts in terms of McDaniel was 37%. And the other 2 were roughly 27, 28%. So it's relatively close. But, we have McDaniel as the current Coach of the Year. Right. Voting ended right now. What are you guys?
Yeah, I would lean towards McDaniel myself and Campbell second, because Campbell's doing it with a lot less, even though they're a much, much improved roster on both sides of the ball. He's doing it with less than Shanahan is. And everybody's, calls Shanahan a genius. And I'm still, just the name Shanahan makes me wonder how his father won a Super Bowl, but that's another story. Had no idea there was a clock in the building. To me, he's a outstanding coach. He still hasn't won anything yet. Okay.
Well, Bertie just pooped in the comments and said we should consider Bowles for the Coach of the Year if Tampa Bay wins.
What?
Well, yeah, he would get significant traction because nobody would have thought that they would be 4-1 if they end up beating Detroit. And this is a week-to-week thing. Where's the value right now? My personal opinion is that, yes, McDaniel is the favorite right now, but there's still high variance with Miami because of their defense.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they did take a couple of injuries as well. I think the safer play right now would be if San Francisco's the number 1 seed, that Shanahan is going to win that award.
Right.
And that's my feeling where the value is right now. Could McDaniel win it? Certainly he could if they do this. Campbell, to me, is almost a cinch for top 3 if Detroit finishes like I think they will and like Cris thinks they will, that they're going to walk away with the division. Whether he gets to number 1 depends on the performance of McDaniel and Shanahan more than the Lions' own performance, in my opinion.
Right. Remember, the voters are also thinking, wow, the Lions haven't won a division in 30 years. That is a huge this guy's God if he got him to do that. Seriously, that's part of the equation.
Well, Miami and Buffalo or Miami and Detroit expectations were the same. They had the identical win total. San Francisco was 11.5. So San Francisco is winning by default just by staying healthy. So that's the difference. I think basically you have to go between Campbell and McDaniel at this point.
Yeah, but let's say the 49ers finish 15-2 or higher.
It depends on what happens with Miami and Detroit.
If Detroit wins 12 games, Campbell gets consideration. If Detroit ends up 11 and you have Shanahan at 15-2, I think it's just going to go to Shanahan.
Yeah, probably.
For the same reason, you got the named guys there. You got the Brock Purdy story. You have the McCaffrey MVP possibility, which is a non-quarterback possibility. You got a lot of things going on. I think it's San Francisco's award to lose, but we've only played 5 games. San Francisco could derail. We're just talking, where can we go from here? And it's going to change, just like if Tampa wins that division, maybe they get some play. But offense is sexy, and that's, I think, why McDaniel is winning right now. They're on an unprecedented scoring spree, and offense sells tickets.
Yeah, but they're also a hell of a defensive team too, though. And they lose their defensive coordinator, and they're still been outstanding. So this team is just so loaded.
Miami?
Hey, no. I'm sorry, San Francisco. I'm thinking not Miami. Yeah. No, San Francisco. And you know what? One of the things I'd love about what Miami is doing is they're taking advantage of their speed like no team maybe ever has. They're just loading up. They're like sort of the way Al Davis used to say, oh, I don't know if he can catch the ball, but I know he's the fastest guy in the world.
Yeah.
He's done that a few times, right?
But when they take out the starting receivers and put in, they're running the same schemes and getting away with it. So it's not entirely based on speed.
No, but the overall team speed is the difference.
It's amazing.
That gives them the advantage by far. It's not even close.
You know what I think about person team fit. And when they took that running back in the 3rd round this year with that blazing speed, Tyreek Hill type speed, he's averaging over 12 yards a carry. I know he's unfortunately going on IR for 3 or 4 weeks. HN, yeah. I was going to leave it to you for the pronunciation.
Yes. Yeah, it was H-Chain until last week, and he said, no, I wanted H-Chan. So now we know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he changed it.
Utilizing him, and another team would not utilize him the way they utilize him. And that was my notes in my draft report. I revisited it, and I said, I just can't wait to see how McDaniel schemes him. And look what he's done. He's on the perfect team for his skill set.
Yeah, now it's too bad, though. He's hurt. And I don't know, how long is he out for? Is it like at least a few weeks?
3-4 weeks. He'll be back. It's not serious. He'll be back. Okay. Yeah, no problem.
The value of star players that are not quarterbacks.
Yes. So the name that comes to mind is Justin Jefferson. This guy is all-world number 1. It's like one of these guys. It's like last night watching Travis Kelce. They're going to throw to him, and yet they still complete the pass. 8 targets, 8 receptions, and so on. Same thing with Justin Jefferson. Cris, what's he worth? Do you do player evaluations in your model?
Yeah, I probably deduct more than the average person will for star players. I want to evaluate the chemistry, because there's certain players like Leonard for the Colts and um, what's his name on the Saints, when they go out, it's devastating to their chemistry for whatever reason, and it changes their dynamics. And, there's been times in the past when certain Lion players have gone out and you just know it's affecting the whole, aura and energy of the team. And it's certainly worth more than the point or point and a half that others will tell you. I mean, others will tell you that there's no player worth more than a point. And I think there is in certain circumstances.
Yeah,
There are
he's such a great
five
player.
players that way that are worth a point or more to me. Aaron Donald, TJ Watt, McCaffrey would be worth that. Down the road, you may even see an Aiden Hutchinson worth that, because these are players that make other people better. And that's the key in terms of you're doing a point evaluation, not their own role, but do they make other people better?
Yeah, so now my thought is, mentioning Jefferson, why is Minnesota still a 3-point favorite on the road at Chicago?
Yep.
Yes.
I like Chicago this week.
You can have them.
Hey, they stink, but so does Minnesota.
Step up to the window.
Yeah, there's two rules of trains of thought with that. Number one is Minnesota is their own worst enemy. No one's
and they're
beating
spiraling
Minnesota.
down.
Minnesota is beating themselves. I mean, obviously Jefferson and Hawkinson being out of the game in the fourth quarter affected the spread. Probably KC comes back and win because KC is KC and they have Pat Mahomes, but they probably don't cover the spread. But all the other times that Minnesota shot themselves in the foot, they should have won the game. I mean, literally, they should be nothing less than 3-2 at this point.
But
so
yeah.
this is more about Minnesota's ability to stay out of their own way than what Chicago does.
Yeah, the
Chicago
total
had
opposite of last
Chicago
year,
had a surprise on their injury list that's going to be out there. Rookie starting quarterback. He's showed up as being out unexpectedly. So
cornerback,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well,
yeah. This is the time of the day that we get those full practice injury
Right.
reports, questionable, doubtful, etc.
Yeah.
So encourage everybody to look at that closely. Look for cluster stuff, two people out in the same position, and so on.
I'm trying to get a feel for overall team psyche here in this game. This is the one that stands out to me more than anyone. I see Minnesota on a downward spiral in many ways, and you lose Jefferson, that is a real killer. And you got Chicago who's all of a sudden feeling a little bit positive about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't screw up, you could pass against this team. Now you never know what Justin Fields is going to do and what team he's passing to. But if they're at home, they should. This is like sort of their game. It's a divisional game. This is their last chance to say we're going to do something this year. And Fields has got a positive feeling about some stuff. Finally.
Well, one could also look at it that they have their win and the monkey's off their back, and maybe they relax just a little bit because they're not in that winless column anymore. So
I don't think there's any relaxing in there. There's no relaxing when you're 1-4. And the other thing, by the way, is I really like the idea that I'm talking about liking Chicago's side. Minnesota there's all this chatter about we got to get rid of Cousins and this and that. And that's a little bit of a cloud hanging over this team right now. When is the actual give up factor, not by the players, but by the organization saying, you know what, we got to get rid of him. We got to get something for him. We're not re-signing him. And it's getting close to that.
It's a lot of Bears talk. So let me just close with the one thing. I know what the Bears are going to do. What I think this game hinges completely on Arizona. On Minnesota. On Minnesota. How do they account for the loss of Jefferson? And don't they understand that Chicago's defense is pretty poor? I don't know where you have them ranked, Chris, but this is still in Minnesota's hands, whether they win or lose this game. It's not
Chicago's dead last, I believe.
Yeah, but the problem is Minnesota has dropped the ball every time they have it in their hands this year. So
they got to work on that. One more
Minnesota's
game.
Just so much better on both sides of the ball. I mean, they're supposed to win the game. We have everything that you've said is true those are all peripheral considerations that all equal out in the long run if you're just following the metrics over the course of many, many, many games. I mean, you could be 100% right on this one game, maybe not, but the safer bet is to go with the better team, and Minnesota is clearly the better team.
Yep.
Let's talk about Monday night's game because it's fascinating. Both of your thoughts on the fact that the offensive coordinator for the Chargers was the offensive coordinator for Dallas last year.
I don't think that comes into play a whole lot in this game because to me, it's more about the Dallas offense now as opposed to whatever the Chargers are doing now and whatever Dallas used to do, because Dallas can't finish drives. We started that, and you guys were shaking your heads at me after week 3, and I said they're not beating anybody. They can't finish drives. Their field goal to touchdown ratio was like 3-1 at the time, and it's the same crap. And so now they got injuries on both sides of the ball, and Dallas is in trouble. They look like a 500 team to me. And
Pollard's on that list.
Yep. And just looking at, one game, they lost to the best team in the league. It's not the end of the world. It's the way they lost. It's the way they looked. They look like a minor league team in that game. They had zero chance. Okay. And I love the Chargers this week off a bye with Eckler healthy. Give them the ball, let them do whatever pass them the ball, all kinds of good stuff. Everything looks positive there. And you know what? I'm not overly impressed with what Kellen Moore has done with the Chargers yet, but I'm definitely not impressed with the way Dallas has accepted the fact that we didn't need him. Let Mike McCarthy call the plays. It ain't working, boys.
Well, you're never quite as bad as your last game. And I think it's kind of better's fallacy to say that because Dallas looks so bad that you're automatically going to go against them the next week. I don't think I think in some ways teams bounce back, and there are probably spread metrics that say this. Teams bounce back after big losses more than people think. So you have to throw that out at San Francisco and so on. There are reasons for liking the Chargers, and one of the reasons is certainly the rest factor. And the reason I bring up Kellen Moore in this particular case is because he doesn't have just 5 days to think about this. He has 13 days to think about this, or 14 because it's a Monday night. So I think there's going to be some scheming, and there's going to be something special that Kellen Moore tries to do. The bigger issue I have, other than Staley, both coaches, there's like 8 coaches in the league that I don't trust at all anymore. The biggest question I have is a Chargers defense doesn't play to its personnel. They need to play better. You mentioned the red zone, Ted. Can the Chargers defense actually stop teams from getting in the end zone? Because I don't know what's wrong, but I think the Chargers should be better defensively than they are.
I agree. Is Bosa back yet or not? I don't know.
I would think that he's playing. Again, that's an extra benefit of the bye.
Yeah, but he's been a disappointment because he's always hurt. And you never know when you're going to get even close to 100% Bosa. And the guy's a standout player. If they ever get him for a long period of time, that changes so much for that team.
So, Chris, what are your thoughts on these teams?
I just want to say Slay and Carter are out for the Eagles. That's why that line's dropping.
Oh, okay.
That's down to 6 in spots. I agree with you that this Chargers defense can't seem to stop anybody, and it's a get healthy defense for Dallas basically. So, but we have to see who actually plays. I mean, if they're missing Pollard, that's going to make them in real trouble. So they've already lost a couple of key players. They're getting to the point where they start to lose any more. And it doesn't matter what the effort they put in, they just aren't going to have the personnel. So Eckler will be back. Herbert will be rested. My motto leans to Dallas. My head says the Chargers teaser looks like a lot of fun. I don't have a play in the game.
Well, you mean you're not taking advantage of home field advantage for the Chargers? There'll be at least 3 Charger jerseys in the building for this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
By the way,
the lost and found where?
no, in the actual store you can buy them.
Yeah.
But look, again, Chargers off a bye. Okay, important there. I don't see the Chargers being anything worse than a pick 'em in this game in my mind. I'm not saying the odds should be that. I'm just saying this is a toss-up game, and if I'm getting points, I'm taking it. That's the way I look at this game.
Ron, any surprises in your model over the first 5 weeks?
Well, the thing that I put in the chat was Houston is better than what I thought at the beginning of the year. Obviously, Stroud is completely, I mean, you're talking about a one-dimensional offense, and yet Stroud is doing absolutely nothing wrong. And then we talked about New England already. The disappointment with Bill O'Brien, the change of the offensive coordinator, regardless of how I feel about what personnel they kept and what personnel they dropped, averaging 11 points a game is inexcusable. Those would have been my 2 biggest surprises from where I started at the beginning of the year to now.
Right. By the way, Houston, they're 1-8-1 in their last 10 games at home. So what is it there? I mean, come on, guys.
But they're on a 1-game winning streak there.
I guess that's all that matters. Yeah, on the road, right?
So for Chicago, the roll keeps on going, but for Houston, it won't. Make up your mind.
Yeah, but there's a history there. I'm just looking at the history. CJ, it's up to you, baby. Time to turn this franchise around.
Yeah.
I think
that's all I got. What do you got for next week?
I hear the ice cream man in the background. Who is that?
I hear that.
Next week, we got Buffalo at New England.
New England again.
New England again. We got them 3 or 4 weeks. I'm sorry. I don't make these schedules. And then Indy. No, I'm sorry. And then the Chargers at Kansas City next week.
Can you ask Bill, how long are you going to stick this out? At what point does your reputation and your legendary status come into play where it's just not worth it to chase?
Well, his reputation and his legend are all approaching the winningest coach of all time. So that's right there. That's on his list. I think if he got that this week, he might retire at right at the end of the game.
Yeah.
But that's a couple of years away. I'm just saying it's there.
So, Ted, you've got clout.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got years in the experience and so on. Let's
clout.
forget the player interviews next week. Let's go right for Belichick and Staley as your interviews.
Oh, God.
Let's have some fun.
You know what? I would like to talk to Staley. Belichick, no. Because I know what I'm going to get out of him. It's on to Cincinnati.
On to Cincinnati.
No, and he said we're starting new this week. That's what he said like 19 times in his early interviews. We're starting new. I don't know what that means, but he wouldn't tell us, so I don't know.
The Patriots just ruled out 7 players, including Douglas, Rafe, and Schuster.
Okay, Schuster, we figured.
Yeah, got to scour over those right now. So
by the way, that's
my charts.
That's the little turnaround there. You got Schuster, the ex-Raider. It would have been nice to see him play against his old team, and Jacoby, who's going to be calling me in about 30 minutes. Myers. So, but that's not going to happen. Look, the Patriots losing 7 guys might be a good thing. Depends who they can replace them with.
Amon saying Brown is going to play for the Lions. Gibbs is not, and neither is Branch. And Laporta is questionable. Jonah Jackson's out. So you get it. They're a little dinged up, but they should still have enough in the tank.
Yeah. Did you like Laporta as much as he's looking right now coming out of college?
Yeah, I rated him. There were 7 tight ends worthy of going in the first 3 rounds, and Laporta was in the 3 to 6 range as far as that tight end. So I had him squarely in the second round. In that, but below the top 2, although he's certainly outperforming the Raiders, Mike Meyer, who's not performing well so far.
Right, exactly. Well, that's why Gesicki needs to do something this week. I got Sports USA Karma. He's going to score a touchdown. course,
Yeah, it's been mentioned a few times about the
Yeah.
Sports USA karma. There's going to be a few people on the overs on Gesicki. I think he came pretty close to what my numbers came out. So
although it's a little hard to put money on the Patriots scoring any touchdown, but we'll see what happens with that. And I got no Taylor Swift update. I'm sorry. I think she left the building last night, and she's probably eating Kansas City barbecue. I don't know what to tell you.
She's beyond overexposed at this point. I've never
think?
been anti-Taylor Swift, but I'm getting sick and tired of my timeline filled up with it. And on that note, Ron and I are going to be back on Tuesday to talk what happened and look ahead.
Okay.
And then
Sounds good,
the
guys.
three of us are going to be back next Friday.
Yep. And I'll be on 9:30 in the morning Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Sunday. My pregame show, SportsUSA.live. Talk to you then.
Enjoy the weekend, everybody.
Later.